In your opinion, what military developments are the most important in determining the status of a state as a leading geopolitical player? Nuclear weapons? Maybe. However, it's still a purely political lever and not an instrument of war. Aircraft carriers are quite another matter. A country that manages to build an aircraft carrier moves into the top league, or at least wants to appear to have done so. Today, we'll talk about aircraft carriers and their impact on modern warfare. In the meantime, please like this video and write in the comments what city you're from and what the weather's like. And here we go. The first thing to say is that Japan is returning to the group of aircraft carrier powers amid growing tensions with China and Russia. For decades, this country's been trying to implement an aircraft carrier program, but it has only just succeeded. Restrictions imposed on Japan after World War II do not allow it to officially have aircraft carriers. However, the country's Navy intends to strengthen its potential against the backdrop of the power of China's naval forces in the Pacific. The Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force has completed the modernization of 2 Izumo-class ships, which are actually light aircraft carriers. Thanks to the reconstruction, the ships became platforms for aircraft, including F-35B fighter bombers. Curiously, these ships are officially designated by the Japanese Navy as multi-purpose destroyers. The length of the takeoff deck of the ships is now 800 feet. In addition, the structures were reinforced and a coating was applied to resist the heat generated by the F-35B turbines on the flight deck. The implementation of an onboard elevator made it possible to lower larger aircraft, such as fighter jets, into the hangar. The runway lighting system was also adapted to the aircraft. A joint precision approach system was installed to facilitate the landing of 5th-generation fighters. In other words, it turned out to be a top aircraft carrier worth the money. Thanks to the super advanced technologies of the United States and Japan, there's no need for giant floating cities. The technologies will do everything on their own, outnumbering the enemy. Of that we can be sure. In addition, using the experience of Izumo, Japan could convert another Hyuga-class destroyer, which has 16 slots of the Mk-41 vertical launch system, which were used to install SM anti-aircraft missiles and VL ASROC anti-submarine missiles. Besides, the ship was equipped with torpedo tubes, and it was supposed to operate independently, unaccompanied. This is in addition to the helicopters on deck and inside the ship. Such weapons radically distinguish it from the Izumo-class, which was originally designed for further transformation and does not have long-range weapons. However, there are currently no plans to modernize the Hyuga-class into an aircraft carrier, but an anonymous officer of the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force said in 2018 that the country would use the ship for 30 years. After that, if there's a political decision, the Hyuga-class can be converted into an aircraft carrier at any time. In contrast, the Americans always manage to build an aircraft carrier. If you put all the U.S. aircraft carriers in a row, you'll get 2 miles of firepower. With the biggest aircraft carrier fleet in the world, the United States is not only protecting its territories, but also helping its allies. Out of 11 ships in total, half of them are operating elsewhere in the world. And it all comes at a cost. The program for the last 3 Ford aircraft carriers cost $120 billion. Each ship of the Nimitz-class cost an average of $4.5 billion. One day of its operation cost $1.5 million. All these costs are justified when it comes to the national interests of the United States, especially if a Ford-class aircraft carrier appears near your port.
Today it is my great pleasure to announce that the Department of the Navy's newest aircraft carrier, CVN-78, the first in a new class of CVN-21 carriers, will be named USS Gerald R. Ford.
This ship replaced the morally and physically obsolete Nimitz ships. It's gigantic. 200,000 gallons of paint were used to cover the entire outer hull of the ship. This is enough to paint the White House 350 times. A distinctive feature of the new ship is the presence of an electromagnetic catapult, which operates using a linear electric motor. The catapult makes it possible to accelerate fighters more smoothly and accurately, which reduces the overloads on the steel structure of each expensive aircraft. In addition, a pair of new reactors designed specifically for this aircraft carrier can produce 25% more energy than previous similar power systems. As a result, there's a power reserve that allows for much faster reloading of the catapult. In addition, the aircraft carrier is equipped with 4 propellers, each of which weighs 30 tons, is 21 feet in diameter, and is covered with bronze. The number of service personnel is also decreased and now stands at 4,660.
Combine all that, and we've been able to reduce the manpower on this ship, the crew size, by about 600 people.
It allows to reduce the pressure on the budget as this American aircraft carrier cost the country $4 billion less to operate than its predecessor.
There is a high bill up front for this carrier, without a doubt. It's a first of class, but it is designed from the outset to operate more efficiently and to have greater availability due to the reduced maintenance requirements.
Despite this, the cost of creating and maintaining it is a colossal amount. Taking into account inflation, the program of landing a person for a month was not much more expensive. Without exaggeration, this ship is a space station on water. Even NASA is said to have been involved in its creation. The USS Gerald Ford even has Starbucks coffee on board. However, there are few such cruise ships for the military. The majority of the U.S. aircraft carrier fleet is made up of Nimitz-class aircraft carriers. All 10 aircraft carriers of this class were built by the Newport News Shipbuilding Company in Virginia.
Huge range of craftsmen were involved.
The USS Nimitz, the lead ship of the class, was commissioned on May 3, 1975, and the USS George H.W. Bush, the 10th and last of the class, was commissioned on January 10, 2009. Computer-generated design has already been used to create it.
The improvements in computer design, the ability to reduce the number of pieces that go together, is going to be a heck of a lot more efficient.
Since the 1970s, Nimitz-class aircraft carriers have participated in many conflicts and operations around the world, including Operation Eagle Claw in Iran, the Gulf War, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and the most recent operation in the Red Sea. The flight decks of aircraft carriers use the cattle device with steam catapults and cables to launch aircraft.
Without the catapults, we have no other means of getting the aircraft off to do their missions.
However, this catapult allows for a much wider variety of aircraft than the STOVL arrangement used on smaller aircraft carriers. However, this is not the only advantage of the large deck. Another advantage is the ability to accommodate large aircraft. A massive 4-engine turboprop military transport aircraft, the Lockheed C-130 Hercules, is capable of both taking off and landing at Nimitz. Just look at its size. In addition, let's not forget that the U.S. is constantly modernizing these ships.
An amazing capability that we have on this ship with the latest combat systems upgrade in the United States Navy.
So even old aircraft carriers are still making the difference on the world stage, and there's no replacement for them for maritime powers. Therefore, China is actively trying to reach the level of the U.S. naval power. On June 17, 2022, China launched the Type 003 aircraft carrier, the first ship built outside the United States that can be classified as a supercarrier, at least in terms of size. It's contrasted with the American Nimitz-class aircraft carriers and even the most modern Gerald R. Ford class. Remarkably, it was originally planned to equip the Type 003 with steam catapults, but later this was abandoned and a state-of-the-art electromagnetic system was installed. But in fact, Type 003 is the first attempt. China's goal is to have nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, and the Type 003 is just a step closer. That's why there's only one ship in this class. In fact, the development of the Type 004 with a nuclear power system and an even larger displacement is already underway. In 2017, metal cutting and the installation of super-heavy cranes for the construction of the hull allegedly began. Even experimental nuclear reactors were tested in 2020. It's believed that Type 004 aircraft carrier reactors will be able to generate enough energy to power electromagnetic catapults, laser weapons, and railguns. The ships, which are planned to be 4 aircraft carriers in total, will have a displacement of 110,000 tons, will be able to reach speeds of more than 30 knots, and carry up to 100 aircraft and helicopters, plus a variety of UAVs, including stealth aircraft. The first Type 004 aircraft carrier is due to enter the fleet in the second half of the 2020s. However, every weapon has its counterpart. Nowadays, such behemoths need an aircraft carrier group to protect them, because with the development of cheap unmanned systems, the near future poses a great threat to large ships. One only has to look at the example of Ukraine, a country without a navy that destroyed a third of the threatening Russian fleet. But imagine if the Moskva missile cruiser was replaced by the Admiral Kuznetsov aircraft carrier. And it's the only one in its class that has its own missile launchers.
Unlike many other warships in its class, Admiral Kuznetsov is actually capable of defending itself. For example, these Kinzhal.
But will they be able to repel an attack by naval drones?
It might not be particularly efficient to operate from that ship.
Therefore, in the near future, China, the United States, and other owners of aircraft carriers may face the problem of disproportionate cost and effort in waging war on the water. But this is a topic for another video. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.